What is going on, FA Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Sean Mitchell, and this is the DFS NBA live stream. 9 games on the slate. Sean, it's good to be with you, man. I'm ready to dominate. I want to start my Super Bowl weekend off right by dominating in DFS basketball. That's what we're all about. That's what family's for. How the hell are you?
Great, man. Great. Glad to be back. Glad to be doing a live stream again. It's been a minute, so I was on the playbook today, so I'm pretty pumped about this slate. First, pretty decent size slate I've done in a minute too, as well as far as the playbook goes. So I already got the playbook out. I'm looking forward to it, man. How about you?
You want to follow along with us, you know where to go, fantasyalarm.com. And before we go over some of our plays per position, let's go over some of the injury news that has come out. We're going to go over more injury news as we've backed up the stream. We're going to get a lot frisky here when it comes to this injury news, Sean. So let's start with Paul George. Kind of a surprising injury pop-up here for us recently. Sore foot he's dealing with, all of a sudden now questionable for this game. So that's something big that we're going to watch. Jaylen Brown dealing with a knee injury. He is out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, also a knee. He's out. Colin Sexton, a neck strain. You would think if it's a neck strain, he'd be automatically ruled out, but right now still questionable. D'Angelo Russell dealing with a quad issue. He is questionable. Anunoby, Aaron Gordon, Nance, all out. P.J. Washington is also out. Jay Crowder, doubtful with a foot issue. Dort, Porter, I'm also seeing Maladon out as well. So it's all of a sudden the injury news coming in, Sean, and we got some of those Thunder names. So that's where the Thunder screams value.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, they're hurting now, especially, in that backcourt. There's going to be lots of value there. It's a good spot here against Minnesota, pace-up spot. So that's definitely somewhere we'll be looking to get some value.
All right, well, Sean, let's start at the point guard spot here because we'll go over a couple from each tier. We'll give some high tier, mid tier, maybe some value as well for all of you. For the rest, you go to the playbook at fantasyalarm.com. So who are you prioritizing between some of the high-priced guy, Westbrook on that slate? I mean, that Toronto-Brooklyn game, we can't ignore it. I don't want this entire stream to be about this game. But when you have a high as hell total, when teetering in the 240 region, we got to have some love in this game, Sean. So let's just start there because we know that the Nets' big three are high priced when it comes to the guard situation. Who do we spend up on?
I don't know. I mean, I really like James Harden. I think he's been kind of coming around a little bit more lately. He's been taking more shots. The usage is actually not up. He's averaging right around like a 22% usage, which is pretty crazy because, I mean, he's top 55 fantasy points his last 2 games. Again, Toronto's kind of struggled against the guards. More so, I say the small forward spot, that's been a spot we've been attacking all season long. So Kevin Durant, obviously, is probably my next priority. I think it's likely James Harden 1, Kevin Durant, and then Kyrie's going to be that third wheel. Not that I feel like he is not as, productive as those other 2 guys. We've seen them kind of spread the usage. I mean, Durant leads the team in usage, right around a 27% usage rate. Kyrie next, around 25-ish. And then, like I said, Harden who's only been averaging right around like a 22% usage rate, which is insanely crazy to see the kind of numbers he's putting up.
So, Sean, before we even continue this stream, man, we got a situation. So I just mentioned some of those Thunder injuries. The Thunder are right on the line of not being able to play.
Oh, wow.
So my question to you is, because we want in this matchup, they have enough to play. But if one more person is ruled out, because I believe I'm counting 8 right now, 1, 2, 3, like they're about at 8 that are active. One more gets ruled out for some reason, this game's done.
Yeah.
So, Sean, I mean, what do we even do? Sean, what are we going to do with this game?
I don't know, and that's the bad thing is because this game has a lot to like about it. I mean, OKC, it's crazy that they're missing George Hill, they're missing Lou Dort. And now, like I said, if they have one more rolled out, they might have to postpone that game. Obviously, something to keep your eye on. Obviously, something we need to monitor. Hopefully, you guys will be in the chat with us after the live stream leading up to lock. So make sure you keep an eye on it. That game that gets crossed off. I mean, that's probably one of the better games as far as it has a really good spread. I think it's only like a 2-point spread. I think the last time I looked. It's a -1 spread with a 220 total. one of the only games other than the Chicago and Orlando game that has a spread under 5 and a really decent total at 220. So if that game gets crossed off the board for us here early, you're going to be looking for some tremendous value elsewhere, and that's definitely pivotal.
Right, and let's talk about some of that value going back to the point guard spot now. We'll keep you updated regarding the status of this game, but again, I would start maybe building away from this game for right now. Let's start thinking with that mindset because there is some good point guard value on this board. Let me ask you about this. With Milwaukee, as good as people tend to think they are, they also give up a lot of points. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I need a little bit of Cleveland in here who's still dealing with some injuries. So let me ask you this. With Colin Sexton dealing with this, quote, neck strain, even if he plays and, a neck strain, Darius Garland, you love him tonight? I feel like it's a very fair price.
Well, I just think it's going to come down to, if Sexton does happen to sit, I mean, are they really? They're not exactly deep at the point guard or shooting guard spot. So, I mean, Garland could easily still play 30-plus minutes even if this game does happen to get out of hand. I think that he could see quite a few more shots, obviously, if Colin Sexton, who's averaging, 16 to 22 shots a game, a few of those are going to go his way. He's very cheap. I think he's, right around the 6K mark on DraftKings, looking at 5.8 on FanDuel, I believe. He's played 31, 38, and 34 minutes in his last 3 games since returning. 29 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. So you definitely got to think that he's going to get an uptick. This is a major peso spot here. Milwaukee, one of the fastest teams. They play with really fast pace, and that's probably a reason why they give up a lot of points. Is because there's a lot of up and down, a lot of back and forth, and they don't care. Offense wins games, so they're fine with that. That's how they play.
2 other point guards that are actually in the playbook that I'm looking at actually are playing each other. Because Chicago, Orlando, I want to feast on this match as well. Right. So let me ask you this. Being that they're at somewhat similar price points, more on DraftKings, who would you choose between Kobe White and Cole Anthony?
I'm going to have to go with Kobe because I think a lot of people will probably go with that Cole Anthony pick because it's a good one. Again, Chicago really hasn't been that great against the point guard spot. But I believe that I like some other Magic a little bit more than Cole. Cole's had his games, but he's still kind of overshadowed by
I'm with you on that.
Evan Fournier, and Kobe White. I kind of pointed it out in the playbook. I mean, if you look at his road games, he's averaging almost 3 points more per game, 1.5 more rebounds per game, and almost over 2 assists per game more on the road than he is at home, which I thought was very interesting because he's played 10 games at home. He's played 10 games on the road. And he's done really good. He's played really well on the road. Not sure why it's that way, but he's averaging 36 minutes a game. He's got a 21.3% usage rate on the road. Been playing pretty well on the road, so I think he probably gets overlooked in that game.
Let's be real. Who likes Illinois at this time of year, right? Let's be real right now, Sean. Let's move on to shooting guard, though, because we already talked about the Nets situation. Again, you got to just love it all over the place. It's going to be great. But what about from the Toronto side? What about Freddie VanVleet? Because there's a little bit of a differential between the 2 sites of $1,100. Yeah. So what do you think about VanVleet at both price points?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see that price, on DraftKings there, especially
$9K and 70 and 7.9 the other.
That's what I was saying. To think of VanVleet, who's just a really big 3-point shooter, you would think it would be flipped. You would think that he would probably be 9K on DraftKings, where they give you that 3-point bonus, compared to 9K on FanDuel. He just poured in 54 actual in his last game, 3 boards, 2 dimes, 3 blocks, and 3 steals. 78 fantasy points in that game against the Magic's last game. That's his 5th out of his last 6 contests to go for 42 or more fantasy points. The guy's playing extremely well. Brooklyn doesn't play defense. So, Freddie VanVleet is absolutely in play tonight.
So let me ask you this then. So with VanVleet, we were just talking about Kobe White. What about Zach Levine? We just talked about VanVleet going nuts. Levine's in the same matchup here. What do you think about that?
Levine's been a little bit hit or miss lately. I'm not saying that he can't go for 50 plus, but he's been kind of in a little bit of a slump. He hasn't really been playing up to his potential lately. Lauri Markkanen's been taking a lot of that usage away from him. He's been playing pretty decently well. I just think that the shooting guard spot was pretty loaded. Brad Beal, Fred VanVleet, James Harden, Paul George if he plays. I had to kind of prioritize, and I had to kind of pick and choose, and I couldn't just have them all. So I did not have Levine in the playbook, so I will go ahead and take that. If he goes off tonight for 70 fantasy points, you can blame me.
I just had to ask, bro. I just had to ask about that. I wasn't trying to blame you or anything. No, I just was curious. We were talking about the Van Vliet matchup, and here we are talking about how we have to attack Chicago and Orlando, especially in the backcourt, all over. Forget it. There are no rules. Right. No rules. You to any spot you attack, stack. We'll talk some stacks when we get to the front court with this matchup. But let me ask you this: when you see the Norman Powell price point at 6,700 and Van Vliet is at 7,900, you're going to go Van Vliet every single time, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to. He's just got more upside. His ceiling's a little bit higher. Norman Powell has been playing really well. I mean, but he still yet. He's got to compete with Van Vliet, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam. So the usage there is there for Powell, but I mean, Red Van Vliet is the natural scorer. He's been doing both sides of the ball with the defenses. 3 blocks last game. I mean, come on, man, this guy's doing it all. Just for 1K more or roughly. 2K, I guess you could say. I think you kind of have to go Fred Van Vliet there.
And one more, and I promise you for a little bit we'll leave this matchup that I keep harping on. Evan Fournier. Here's the thing with Evan Fournier. He's going to be bringing up the ball a good amount. I feel like the assist floor being at 3 is safe to say at this point. You could tell me if I'm wrong, but I have to justify these other stats that are coming a little bit more consistently if I'm ever going to play Evan Fournier. Because how many times have we been caught with these scoring-dependent Evan Fournier? They don't have many players to bring up the ball. He's one of them. No Aaron Gordon in this matchup. He should be taking more shots. What do you think about him in the 6K range?
Yeah, I mean, I totally like him. If you look at his last game, the first game without Gordon there, he had almost a 33% usage rate. He led the team. The only one that was close to him even was Vucevic at 24%. Put up 33 fantasy points in that game. He's going to shoot. I mean, the guy loves to shoot the ball. As you mentioned, he's going to have the ball in his hand quite often. I really like the spot for him here. And his price kind of is right there where you can still have just a little bit of room for upside. But I think he's probably more of a cash play because, as you mentioned, he is really scoring dependent. You really haven't seen him go for 40+ too many oftentimes, even without guys on the floor, such as Aaron Gordon. So for me, I mean, I do have him listed as a cash and GPP play, but I would probably lean more to cash for him.
Yeah, well, thanks for lying to us in the playbook then, Sean. I mean, seriously, man, it was Sean. Sean, any other shooting guards you like for value for tonight?
Obviously, if OKC plays, I like Diallo. I think he's gonna, get a big run of minutes again. So he's one that I like. Jeremy Lamb, I think, is in a good spot. I think after his dud last game, a lot of people are just gonna scroll right past him. The prior 3 games, he played 30, and 32 minutes, or fantasy points. 30 and 30 and 26 minutes on the floor, putting up over 30 fantasy points in the 3 straight games before his dud last game, which was a blowout. So I think he's pretty interesting at the price. Still like that 5.2. I think it's still really fair on DraftKings. So those are a couple other guys that I'm kind of looking at.
Let's move on then to small forward here because Paul George, now questionable. Does it make you want to shift focus maybe away from a Kevin Durant and go look at Kawhi Leonard against Boston with no Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, it does really. And I even, in the playbook, I even said that, Kawhi was my pivot from Kevin Durant. That was even before PG was listed as questionable. The 3 games prior to Kawhi Leonard's 2-game absence, he had put up 55 or more in all 3. Here, since he kind of came back, he's still put up around 42 or more in his last 5 of 7. He's been, he's carrying the team, leading the usage rate with almost 30%. I still think being under 9K on DraftKings is kind of it's kind of hard to pass up for Kawhi, especially being at home. Jaylen Brown not playing definitely does give a little bit of advantage in his position.
Absolutely. Everything is lining up for Kawhi to have a big night. So let's get on that too. I'd also, by the way, start looking at some props too before we get an official ruling on Paul George. Just saying. Just saying. Let's go to the mid-tier. I mean, anybody else when it comes to high price that you like, Sean? I feel like we haven't given a lot of love to the high salary guys. That's my fault. So you can blame me for that, Sean, just like we can blame you if Levine has a career game and the best game of all time. So let me ask you this here for the high price for the small forwards. Who else are you focusing on?
I really like Jimmy Butler again, going against this Washington team. I mean, they've been absolutely terrible against the small forward spot, allowing the second most fantasy points to that spot. He's been good. He's put up 50, 52, and 45 fantasy points in his first three games back when he came back from injury. He was playing over 30 minutes a game. It's a nice pace-up spot here for Miami, playing against the Wizards at home. I think that he's probably, as far as kind of getting to that mid-tier, below 9K, he's probably my favorite play.
Isn't like every matchup against the Wizards a pace-up spot pretty much? They suck. They really just – here's the problem. I'm saying they suck, and then they go out and win. Watch.
They're like the Nets, but not as good.
Yes. I can't – you. It was Sean. Sean, let's go to the mid-tier here and look at some of the small forward options, especially now taking this all of a sudden scary situation that we could be dealing with the Thunder. So who else do you like in the mid-tier for the small forward spot? I like to ask people this year because I see him in your playbook. How much is too much for Jeremy Grant?
Yeah, I mean, his price is down. I mean, under 7K right there. I mean, that's nuts to see his price be that cheap. I know he's going into Phoenix. It's a really, bad – I say it's a bad spot. It's not really a bad spot because Jeremy Grant has basically been, like matchup proof. He's been really good. I think he's in play in tournaments for sure. I love the price. Just he can go. He went for 45 fantasy points last game after he had a couple kind of off games. So his price went down. So yeah, give me the Jeremy Grant here. I love him in tournaments. I don't think a lot of people are going to go there even with the cheaper price. So. Yeah, I'm totally on Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, I mean, looking at other options as well when we go down even further, I mean, you do have Josh Jackson as well in the playbook, and that's someone who's very intriguing. Talking to some of our others of the NBA team, John Impemba, James Grande earlier, I mean, this is someone very cheap, especially on FanDuel. What is your expectation? I mean, you just talked about Grant, but for the rest of the Detroit offense?
Yeah, I mean – You never know what you're going to get with Detroit. You don't know who's going to play the minutes. You don't know who's going to play well. Blake Griffin is 52 years old now, and we don't know if he's going to have.
That's inaccurate, Sean. His knees are 82 years old.
Yeah, clarification, my fault. But yeah, Jackson. I mean, he's kind of like the ultimate GPP play because he's cheap. And we've seen the upside. I mean, we've seen him, he just went for 30 and 35 fantasy points in his last two games, only saw 24 and 29 minutes in those. Yeah, I mean, he has the upside, but, obviously we saw a game before that where he only played like 17 minutes and, put up like 10 fantasy points. And so that's exactly why I say he's the ultimate GPP play because we have seen him flash that upside of giving you 7 to 8 to 9X that you need to win tournaments. But on the flip side, if you get the bad night where they actually do, keep this game somewhat close and he only plays 17 or 18 to 20 minutes, you could be looking at maybe only getting 17 to 20 fantasy points, and that's probably not going to be enough.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. That's for certain. Let's move on to the fours here because we got to talk about Giannis in this situation. Do we worry that the minutes might not be there for him tonight against this Cleveland team that continues to be banged up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Sexton sits, they've already got Nance out. They're dealing with injuries everywhere.
There we go.
And even this game being in Cleveland, and we talked about how Milwaukee, has been giving up lots of points. Still yet, Giannis had pretty much a triple-double at halftime of his last game. Still only finished with 58 fantasy points because he only played 30 minutes because they were blowing him out. I mean, that's the thing we've talked about with Giannis all year long. I even put it in the playbook that I'll probably never place him as a cash play because you just don't know. I mean, you're paying $11,000. If he only goes for 58 fantasy points, he's barely even getting you 5X. So obviously, it's hard to prioritize that if you're not playing anything but tournaments.
So what about Jason Tatum now? You have him listed as a GPP. But with Jaylen Brown now out of the mix here, where does he stand?
I mean, he's even more of a GPP play for me now because, if Paul George plays, I hate to say it, but I don't think that Boston is going to be able to keep up. The Clippers are too good defensively. Kawhi is probably going to be on Tatum easily. So, with Serge down there already, Tatum's just not going to have a lot of open lanes. He's not going to be able to score as easy as we probably think he could. And now, he doesn't have that 1-2 punch with Jaylen Brown to take up the other part of the usage and to be that other guy to pass to. So, you probably see a lot of double teams on Tatum. It's not. I just don't love the spot anymore. He's really high priced. He's 9.5 on FanDuel, a smidge under 9K on DraftKings. Like I said, I just think there's other spots that I would rather go. But again, in tournaments, it's totally fine. He's going to get the usage right. He's going to get, he's going to get the biggest bump. But can they keep up? Can they hang in the game? You have to worry about that.
What about the Indiana situation going up against the Pelicans, who really are allergic to defense? They really don't play defense. It was all a trick at the very beginning of the season. Yep. We were all tricked. We thought it was time. Was not time. They don't play defense. So let me ask you this. Is Sabonis at this price point here? It's a great price point for him. Is he a must play? I'm feeling like he is.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listed his cash, but, I'm totally fine playing him in tournaments because of the price, as you mentioned. It is a little bit on the cheaper side. He has here lately been, over 9K quite a bit. So you do get a little bit of a discount savings. He just went for 54 fantasy points in his last 2 games, 40 or more in his last 4 or 5, playing 31 or more minutes a night. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most consistent players in the game. And he just doesn't have just a whole ton of players on that team that just pull usage from him. So he's the main focus. They run through him. Yeah, I think he's an excellent play.
Who are some of the 4s you like for value?
Larry Markkanen, as mentioned in that game. I know we kind of keep bringing that up.
We have to attack. This is a stackable game. We got to almost come up with a stack now. We've mentioned just about every player that we like.
Right. Yeah. I think Serge Ibaka, if you're looking to play some Clippers, I think is fine. I know he's a power forward on FanDuel. If you're looking a little bit further down, you're looking at guys like Daniel Tice, who obviously could get a bump without Jaylen Brown here. We've actually seen him go for 37, 40 fantasy points in his last couple of games. I know he, kind of had a couple of duds there as well, but, he's top 25 or more in his last 5 or 6 contests. He's playing 23, 29 minutes a night, probably going to play, that roughly around that same time frame tonight. It's a good matchup. It's decent. I think you'll get, a lot of time on that second unit too, where he usually hangs on the floor with TT coming off. So I think it's totally fine. I don't love the price. I wish it was a little bit cheaper, but totally fine with that. Kim Birch continues to see good minutes for Orlando off the bench. I know that's one of your faves. Other than that, I mean, once you start kind of looking down further, there's really not just a whole thing, a whole lot to like. Tristan Thompson is in that range. Yeah, exactly. I don't even really like even saying his name.
Oh man, dude, you're like trolling me, man. You really are. I thought that was a home run picking season long. I thought it was going to be the gift that keeps on giving, that we're going to pay $5,500 for every night and get 11-9. I was ready for that. We're not. Yeah. He's never going to sniff that at this point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You and me both.
Dang, that makes me sad. Not allowed to be sad on a Friday, Sean.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about centers here because, I mean, I know we keep mentioning this game. Nikola Vucevic. I mean, who else is going to stop him? I mean, Markkanen is not going to be able to stop him. He's not big enough body frame-wise. He's going to get crushed. Same with Thad Young. He's unstoppable at this point, and he's under 9K.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily the top center play. That's pretty simple. He is the top center play. This is, as you mentioned, this is just an excellent spot. I don't think he could have a better spot right now. Chicago has been horrible against centers. He's 39 or more fantasy points in his last 9 to 10 games. He's going for basically 40 a night. Leads the team in usage, almost 29%. Yeah, I mean, no Aaron Gordon. It's easy. That's an easy pick right there.
Let me ask you about the DeAndre Ayton debate that I've been having in my head all day, because he has been getting double-doubles, and I know it's Detroit, but Rudy Gobert and I are friends again, Sean. I don't know if you know that. We had a talk. I forgave him for what happened before the original NBA shutdown back in March. I mean, Charlotte, man. I mean, come on, dude. You can get a double-double against Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who would you choose between the two of them? I've been literally wrestling with that in my brain all day.
Well, I mean, and I don't mind the Rudy pick. I think his price is a little bit more expensive than I want to pay. He's usually like a cash lock for me, and most of the time, I never play cash, so it's hard for me to grasp, playing Rudy in tournaments because of the simple fact that they're on the road, where he really hasn't exactly been that great. He hasn't really, put up a lot of fantasy points lately. He's been kind of more as a symbol out there and a figure on the paint. So for me, I mean, the spot I like a lot better for Ayton. I mean, Detroit allowing the second most fantasy points to the center spot. However, with Booker back now, we have seen his numbers go right back down to the way they were whenever Booker was in.
It shouldn't be that way, man.
You're right. It shouldn't. The only reason that I kind of prioritize him above Rudy is for the simple fact that, I think Chris Paul is smart enough to know that this matchup is in his favor. But Devin Booker, being Devin Booker, is probably not going to allow that to happen. So that's my only flaw and takeaway from Ayton, because I really do like the spot. He's only 7,100 on DraftKings. I mean, basically free. I mean, 85 on FanDuel is pretty nuts.
He's been teetering in that low 7K range on DraftKings most of the year. And then when I go after him, it's a miss every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we missed our window. I mean, I played him a couple of times there with Booker out. He had a couple of good games. But, yeah, I'm definitely, not as high on him. But, the spot couldn't be any better here against
Right, it couldn't. DeAndre, here's what you need to do, DeAndre, and this is good advice given by Sean Mitchell over here. You need to go to Chris Paul. You need to put your hands on his shoulders. Make sure you're wearing your mask. Do that and go, Mason Plumlee.
Right.
Say it again to him, too, so he understands who you're matching up against, and feed him a little bit more inside, Chris. Let's go, Sean.
I know, man. I'm there.
It shouldn't be that hard. This shouldn't even be a debate. 7,100, but I continue to do it because the scoring is just not there with this guy.
I know. It's a sad story, man. He was crushing last year. He was absolutely crushing. I hate to say that Chris Paul.
I thought it was going to be better this year.
I hate to say it, but Chris Paul was just a negative thing for him. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, Paul's been good this year, but
that shouldn't be.
It hurt.
That's because he's probably used to not playing with a skilled center like guys like DeAndre Jordan and Steven Adams, who all they could do is literally putbacks and that's it with the little one-handed hook moves. But I digress. Other centers tonight that you like, because, I mean, I would have given a little bit of love to Al Horford. But, again, I think this game still goes on, but the paranoia feelers are up. We've seen this happen before.
Yeah, I really like Horford's price, too. I mean, he's cheap. He's been, he put up 33 or more in his last 3 or 4 games. He's playing extremely well.
Dude, he could get 15 and 8 in this matchup.
Yeah, easily. I mean, SJ out, he's going to attract a lot more usage. He's going to take more shots. We've seen him be a lot more aggressive lately since he came back from, his kind of personal whatever leave that he took. Yeah, I mean, the Wolves allowing the 4th most fantasy points to opposing centers. I really like Al Horford tonight. I really like the spot. So, I really hope that game plays because I definitely
we'll make the call right now. Sean Mitchell, the DFS player. Are you building lineups with players from this game in them right now? That's going to be everybody's question for the next hour.
Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Especially in tournaments where people are scared off. I mean, people get scared off. They don't want to play those games that might have a little bit of risk. That's where you make your money in tournaments.
Yes. One more player I want to talk about that's in the playbook, which I'm actually very proud of you for putting in. Cody Zeller.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody Zeller. I mean, look, here's the thing with Rudy Gobert, and this goes back to a lesson I was trying to teach all of last year. Just because you grab a lot of rebounds, you block a lot of shots, does not mean that you are a good on-the-ball defender. That does not mean that you are actually good at blocking out and doing your job correctly and you're a shutdown center. There's no correlation, at least in my mind, for that. So with that, you have Cody Zeller, who's the only game in town at this point because Bismack Biyombo is a statue, and you don't have no PJ Washington, more importantly. Even though, 6,100, I don't like that on paper. I'm down in a GPP. I'm with you on Cody Zeller.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well. I mean, he's played extremely well.
I don't think anyone's going to be on him because they know what Utah's about defensively, and people are just going to assume, oh, they have Gobert. This guy's going to get eaten alive. Yeah, he may get eaten alive. He may eat too.
Yeah, like I said, he's about the cheapest that I would probably go at the center spot. I just don't really love a lot of the value at center. I just think it's a really weak position once you kind of get down there past that spot. I mean, there's just really not a whole lot to like. You're looking at guys like Aaron Baines, who's now questionable. Robert Williams.
Well, here's the problem with that, Sean, because let's just say Aaron Baines is ruled out. Is Chris Boucher going to be given at least 25 minutes? They don't know what they're doing, man. They're being stupid.
Johnson,
They're being really stupid about it. Chris Boucher deserves more love in that rotation than he's getting.
They'll put Pascal Siakam at the 5. They'll put they'll put Powell at the 3. They'll put Stan John, or they might even put Powell at the 4. Who knows with them? They've mixed up that lineup so many different times. But yeah, Boucher's just not been getting the run, man. He's only getting like 18 minutes a game. He's not giving, he's a fantasy point per minute monster, but he's just been off lately. He hasn't been shooting the ball well. Yeah, I mean, if Baines does happen to get ruled out, it might be worth taking a flyer on him because his prices came down so much lately. But at the same time, I just, I don't know. It's a GPP play for sure.
Vucevic, Ayton, or bust pretty much. That's really what you're looking at tonight when it comes to the center position. And it's a 9-game slate. So yeah. We gave you some value. You could go to fantasyalarm.com and check out Sean Mitchell's playbook at smitchell17 for Sean. I'm at FenceD Sports. Get in the chat. Get your lineup set. Let's all win. Start our weekends off right. It could be the Super Bowl in more ways than one. The big game on Sunday, and get into the big game contest. If you want to win some money on fantasyalarm.com, get in, fill out the prop sheet. But your Super Bowl, when it comes to winning and domination at DFS NBA, starts very, very soon. Sean, it's been awesome. Let's all win. Happy Super Bowl, everyone.